So good morning, everyone. We are real excited today, and I'm especially excited. Today, we have StephanieWhite with us, and Stephanie is ending series 1 of our empowerment series. So what a way to end our empowerment series. And so this will be season 1 that we're ending, and season 2 will start in the fall. This will be different if you've attended other empowerment programs. This one will be a little bit different. This is going to be, we're going to allow everyone to keep their cameras on. Mute yourself if you're eating lunch so we don't hear you like eating in our ears. But StephanieWhite has graciously agreed for this to be real and authentic and engaging, so we can ask questions and we can participate, etc. No questions that are way too personal or way too embarrassing, because we'll ask them of you as well. So thank you, StephanieWhite, for that. But we're real excited to have you. Once again, you can put your questions in the chat box, and then I'll moderate those for her as well. This is being recorded, as all of our programs are, so you'll be able to see it on YouTube. So make sure you tune into our YouTube channel. At the end of this program, you'll have a short survey that will take about 30 seconds to fill out, so please do so. Once again, we're ending season 1. Season 2 for Empowerment Series starts in the fall. So if you're new to NEWA or haven't been a member, we're real excited that you're with us. And NEWA is a leading organization of women here in Northwest Indiana. We just did our count, our audit, if you would, and we are over 1,000 participants in NEWA. And it's just really mind-blowing. So it has grown extensively. So if you would like to get more information about NEWA, want to get involved in a committee, please go to newa.org or give us a call. We're happy to help you. Our partners, and we want to thank you to our partners that are with us throughout the year. These partners have invested to really help bring programs to you. They're Franciscan Health, Horizon Bank, and Sage Popovich. So thank you to those for sponsors or partners. And if you'd like to be a partner, we'd love to have you. With that, this is Coach StephanieWhite, and Stephanie, my Stephanie from NEWA, she reached out to Coach Stephanie, and she was as giddy as can be when she said that Coach Stephanie said yes, that she would be on our empowerment series. So I'm not going to read you a long bio about where she was born and and where she got her start, because Coach is going to do that for us. So without further ado, StephanieWhite, welcome and thank you for participating in our empowerment series.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Andrea. Thanks, everybody. Like Andrea mentioned, one of the things that I'd really like to do is just make this really organic kind of conversation. I'll talk a little bit about my journey, a little bit about some of my experiences, and rather than wait till the end where you have to think, oh, what is that question I wanted to ask, or there was something you said, just go ahead and ask it, and we'll go ahead and just have normal conversation. First, I guess just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Indiana, so straight down 41, almost to Terre Haute, not quite, but grew up in Indiana, spent most of my career in Indiana, played at Purdue, played professionally for a number of years, finishing my career in Indiana. And then my coaching career, which happened to coincide with the end of my playing career, has taken me away from Indiana a little bit, but not too much. I always seem to make my way back. So coached for the first time, started in Ball State while I was still playing, then went to Kansas State, spent a couple of years at Toledo before getting into the professional realm, 5 years in Chicago, which is my favorite city in the summertime. I'm happy now in Nashville, where the weather is much better in the wintertime. So after stopping in Indiana and being the head coach of the Indiana Fever, and coming to Nashville to coach Vanderbilt, here's sort of where I am. And so when Stephanie reached out, of course I was excited, because Indiana's home, and to be able to have an opportunity to continue to just be involved in things at home is really important to me, and particularly be able to be involved in women supporting women, and it's something that's very important as we continue to lift each other up, to empower each other, and to help and push each other and make each other better. And so I appreciate the opportunity, Stephanie, to be here today. And I'll talk a little bit about my leadership journey. You know, I think for those of you who have heard or haven't heard, I recently lost my job at Vanderbilt as the head coach last week. And one of the things, as I was thinking about, this is the first time this has happened to me, and I was thinking about failure and failing forward, and how we see so many people who are able to fail forward, and how, you know, we don't get to choose our leadership experiences, and we don't get to choose to lead when things are good. You know, we have to be able to lead through setbacks. We have to be able to lead by example when things don't always go our way. We have to be able to be comfortable being uncomfortable, which is what we ask the people around us to do every day. And so I feel like for me, this is an opportunity to really lean into an experience that I haven't had before, you know, in my professional life. And, you know, my first thought was about my staff, you know, and my staff who really had become family, and, you know, all of their jobs and families, you know, were based on us having a job at Vanderbilt. But one of the things I feel like we've done a really, really unique and good job of, and I think that as women we do a particularly good job of, is being really authentic in how we lead, and being able to be truthful, being able to be transparent, being able to have difficult conversations, you know, positioned our staff to be able to talk about this and love each other through this and help each other through this. And I'm really proud of that, because not every organization, company, team has that. And so I'm just really proud of that. And I think it gives me another opportunity to show our players and our staff, and those who are growing in the industry and who are growing in leadership positions, how to be gracious, how to be humble, you know, how to accept things that don't always go our way, but yet how to use it as motivation, how to use it as a tool to improve, and how to grow. You know, I'm certainly a better coach now than I was when I took the job 5 years ago. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I'm grateful for the lives that you know, we've been able to impact, and the people that we've met on our journey. And now it's time to start another chapter of our journey. And when I think about authentic leadership, you know, that really is what it's about. It's about being real. You know, it's not about, you know, being a leader once you have a title. It's not about being a boss. You know, certainly as leaders, we have to create boundaries. We have to create expectations. We have to set the bar. We have to live that bar. There's no doubt about it. But being authentic and really leading from the positions of who we are, and being vulnerable in a sense that your team, whether for me it was players or staff, know who I am, know what I'm about, know that I love them, know that I challenge them, know that I push them. But at the end of the day, you know, this is a human experience that we're living, and a human experience that we're leading. And with everything that we have been through in the last year, we've had to learn how to do it differently. And I feel like learning how to do it differently has made us more authentic. I hope it's made us more authentic, because I do believe that leading through this pandemic, and what we've experienced in the last year has taught many of us perspective, or not taught us perspective, but maybe re-engaged us with perspective, because it's easy for us as leaders to always think about what has to be done, always think about the bottom line, always think about what we have to do next, always think about setting the bar a little higher, achieving a little more. And what the pandemic has done for me is brought me back to what's important, brought me back to not getting lost in the rat race, but remembering who I am, remembering what I'm about, remembering that my children and my family, are the most important thing. And re-engaging with my staff, and our players in a more human way, and less of a as a result oriented way. And that's really been my greatest leadership journey. In sport, it's all about the results. It's all about winning or losing. It's all about the numbers. In business, it's all about the bottom line. It's all about the bottom line. And how do we achieve the bottom line without giving into to who we are as people? And these humbling moments, I think, are often reminders of that. And speaking of the last year as well, I mean, not only we had the pandemic, which now we have to do things like this, right? We're isolated, and I think about our kids, and our kids meaning not just my children, but our players. The isolation, the new protocols, the human element that we all have, right, is our need for connection. It's our need to be around people. That's how we make each other better. That's how we feel comfortable. That's how we feel confident. That's how we feel the relationships. And the biggest challenge for me as a coach, and likely for you as leaders in your areas, is we perform better when we feel better. We perform better when we feel like we have these relationships. We perform better when we have that connection. And when we don't, how do we communicate in ways that allow people to still feel like there is a relationship? How do we communicate in ways that allow people to still be motivated without seeing the everyday stuff?
How did you keep your team together, Stephanie? Like during that time that you weren't allowed to practice, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, your team, whether it was on the court or in the office, right? Your team disbanded. How did you keep them together and keep them motivated to come back and give you 100%?
Yeah, it's really tough, because we didn't at all times. We left last March and didn't come back together until August. And we had to try to have, conversations like this. And, not only are you trying to keep a team together to play on the court and be motivated to work out on, I mean, we're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They're trying to be creative, to work out on your own, be motivated and disciplined to work out on your own. That was just half of the battle, because not only did we have the pandemic and the working out and trying to do all that, but the social justice, stuff that's going on right now. And, a team full of athletes and a staff that were hurting in a time where we couldn't just wrap our arms around one another, and we couldn't just cry with each other, and we couldn't just be there for each other. And to me, that was the greatest challenge. It was to how can we communicate and let our players and staff and community know that we love them and we're here with them and we're in it with you, when we can't physically touch one another, when we can't see the body language and the human emotion that comes with connection, and that comes with empowering, and that comes with empathy. And it was very tough. It was very tough. And when we got back together, our team was isolated for 2 weeks. And that was even tougher. And I can't tell you how often we heard, oh, well, you don't care about us. You don't this, you don't that. But again, they're kids, right? They're kids. And it's difficult for them to navigate the emotions and the ups and downs of everything that they were experiencing. It was difficult for us as adults to navigate all the emotions that we were experiencing. And how can we embrace this opportunity that we have in a new way? And it took some creativity. It took some creativity from our staff to try to find ways to, you guys are on conversations like this all the time. And you have conversations a lot that, how do we minimize the group think, but how do we empower the people around us to speak their mind? How do we empower the people around us to not just speak their mind, but for everyone else to hear it in a constructive way? How do we build trust? How do we build safe spaces? How do we empower one another to be able to speak in a way that we can grow? And that's tough to do when it's like this. That's tough to do when you can't be around, one another. One of the things that I've done a lot is bring in third parties, whether it's team building coaches, whether it's, people in communities who have had experiences with whatever the conversation might be that we're going to have, that puts us all on an even playing field. I don't like to have not tough conversations, but I don't like to have team building events. I don't like to have, conversations or opportunities for growth when our players or our staff feel like there's a hierarchy. I want to be on the same playing field. So I like bringing in a third party that puts us all on an even playing field, allows everyone to feel a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more safe space. And oftentimes I would put myself on the hot seat first and just see how it goes. And I found that our players in particular, sometimes our staff as well, let their guard down a little bit more when that would happen like that. As leaders, sometimes trying to facilitate everything that we're trying to do in terms of growth and movement and positive movement, sometimes there is still that hierarchy that I've noticed, especially in college sports. I didn't notice it as much in professional sports, but especially in college sports, where they don't want to say the wrong thing, or they don't want to say something that upsets me, or they don't want to say something that upsets our staff. But that's part of our growth, and that's part of our responsibility and my responsibility, as a coach and as a leader, is to create those spaces where we don't have those feelings. And I always felt like that started with me being on the hot seat.
So when you did that, you brought in a third party. Were these programs or these team building programs, were they extensive, or some of them just give us a couple of examples of some of the things that you've done, because maybe we can take them and do something like that up here.
Yeah, it kind of depended upon the situation. So when I first got to Vanderbilt, culturally, it was really in a bad spot, spot. Now,
why do you think it was?
I'm not sure. I think as I'm learning, a lot more, a couple of things that I was not prepared for when I went from working in the pros, which is a lot about managing people. Communication styles are very different. Professionals, this is your job. Like you want, especially as athletes, you want somebody that shoots you straight. You want somebody that's very honest and upfront with you. You want someone who can help you get to where you want to go from a goal standpoint. But it's also your job. And so you're working on your craft every day. That's your focus. When I got back into college sports, these kids have so many things going on in their lives. They're away from home for the first time. They are on their own for the first time. They're managing money likely for the first time. They're navigating a collegiate environment and academics, and everything on their own, managing free time on their own. And what I was least prepared for was just the emotional highs and lows and the mental health aspects of what these kids are dealing with right now, for a variety of reasons, I'm sure. A lot of which I feel like is our social media culture. Everything is supposed to be perfect. Everything is supposed to look perfect. Everyone is supposed to have these perfect lives that are put together and accomplish all of these great things. And so I feel like that has a lot to do with it. So I wasn't really prepared for the emotional highs and lows. But I was told when I took the job that culturally these kids have been beat down. Vanderbilt is really hard academically, so they have a lot of pressures where they're all perfectionists, which I'm sure everyone in this event can relate to. And evidently had negative experiences with leadership. And so when I got there, it was, but when I got there, we had 2 great senior leaders. So I didn't see a lot of stuff that year. It wasn't until year 2, year 3, where, and when it's new, it's exciting and everyone's on board and, all of those things. Right. So in year 2 and 3, I started to see some of these things, and, what I saw was a lack of trust. I saw a lack of confidence, in each individual. It exposes some probably mental health stuff that might not have been on the radar before. And so, from my standpoint, my job was to, let's see what our resources are. Let's give, opportunities and options that are available to everyone. And I just kind of approached it from a tactical standpoint, but also understood that there were some things that we were dealing with that I'm not equipped to deal with. And that's when I decided to bring in, I used to call her our culture coach. Her name is Molly Grisham. She used to be a collegiate soccer coach. And I was like, Molly, there are some bags that we need to unpack here. I'm not exactly sure where or from how we can do this, but I know this is not my level of expertise, so we need your help. And she started working with our team at the end of year 2, and still worked with our team until this year, and really helped us build chemistry, build camaraderie, really understand each other's perspectives. I mean, we had, players who came from wealthy white collar families, and we had players who came from nothing, who single parents who had to scrap and claw to give them an opportunity to participate in sport, which gave them an opportunity to get out of situations. And we didn't really understand one another. And I think through a lot of really hard work from our team, from our staff, and programs that Molly put together, we were able to close that gap. And in closing that gap, we build trust. And
so with you, it wasn't with your team, because I'm hearing what you're doing on the court, and I can really it really resonates with me here at the office, because
Mm-hmm.
it is an ebb and flow. I mean, teams get along really great, and they're firing on the same cylinders, and then all of a sudden you just start getting on a rocky gravel path, and then it gets and you have to bring everyone back, and maybe it's like it's like your family and marriage as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that it's not like, okay, we're going to go out, you guys, and we're going to have a pizza party, or we're going to go out for drinks, and that's going to make everything better. I mean, what you're saying is, to develop a team and culture, it's ongoing work, which I wish
it's an
you'd rather
ongoing organic thing.
I really wish you'd rather say, here is the answer, here is the pill, you give it to everybody, here's the vaccine,
Don't we
and
all?
everyone gets together.
Don't we all? Yeah, and culture is organic. Culture is all ever changing, and you have employees coming and going, right? You have personal situations that ebb and flow, and it is. And we what we like to do, and what I did with our staff a lot, is we would do that. We would go out for drinks, we'd have dinners, we'd do all these things, right? But we also have check-ins, and we did it with our team too. We just have check-ins. And so if we kind of felt like something was off, all right, it's time for a check-in. Is everybody okay? Like, how are you feeling? Particularly with what we've been dealing with over the last year and a half. With whether it's social justice, whether it's pandemic related, whether it's COVID protocol related. We had a COVID outbreak at Christmas. Hey, let's just check in. And I feel like the work that we had done the last 3 years had positioned our team to feel like at these moments that we can be honest in when we were checking in. And I'm not sure we would have had that in year 2 when we first got there. And it's not like you can just fix it and it's done. It's ever changing. We brought in Molly once a month, and we would do team building exercises. And if we were having some conflict, we'd do conflict resolution. But we would bring her in once a month just to make sure that we were all on the same page.
Can you give an example of what Molly did? Like 1 month, what did she do? Like, did she make everyone like jump rope, or
No.
Like jacks?
Yeah.
I don't know. What did she do?
Well, very early on, and it sounds very elementary, but it was actually very therapeutic. She had us draw pictures of what we were feeling. So if this was our season, right? If this was our season, we were just finishing up our season. Let's get on a boat, draw a picture of a boat, get on a boat, and draw what you were feeling. And we saw everything from people off the boat, people in life rafts, people, weather that's like dark and cloudy, and then sun in the corner where we were going to, or where we had come from, and all of these different things that were able to show people's human emotion. She would do that. There were days where she had emojis, and it'd be like, okay, what's your emoji for today? All right, well, if I'm smiling and I'm happy, okay, that's cool. If I have a sad face or a scared face, what is this today? And then if you want to share, then have opportunities to share. One of my favorites was a trust building exercise where she had mouse traps out around a table. and they were live, ready to go mousetraps. And she had pieces of candy, around the mousetraps, and had 2 volunteers. The first volunteer had to put on a blindfold, and the second volunteer had to be behind her and lead her essentially to a piece of candy without getting her finger snapped in the mousetrap. And, it was just communication, right? Like, you have to communicate deliberately, you have to communicate effectively, you have to communicate clearly. Being able to receive communication, you can't anticipate, you can't do your own thing. You have to blindly trust that they're leading you in the right way to get your piece of candy. And I was like, I wanted to make sure there wouldn't be any lawsuits involved with this when we were going through it. But it was one of my favorite exercises. And again, I think, we can go through cookie cutter team building exercises every day. We can go through, those kind of icebreaker things every day. And sometimes we did, but having a third party, I felt like really just put everyone else at ease for me and for my crew. Now in the pros, when we did team building exercises, we would do outdoor stuff. We would go zip lining, or we would do like a ropes course, or we would do things like that. And we had athletes, so we were active. So almost everything that we did, was activity based, communication based, and that's what they responded to. So for me, trying to navigate what the 18 to 21-year-olds responded to and who they responded to was really important.
So you get this great team going, and you're all working together. You've got you finally have meshed. Everyone's personality, right? And then you have turnover, right? Your seniors leave. In our offices, someone leaves, and then you've got these newbies, and you've got the old ones who are like, hey, you know what? They're not part of our family yet or anything. How can we, when we have new people, whether it's in our team, our company, or even within this organization, right? I mean, look at all these people here. How do we reach out, and how do we make people feel that they're part of it? How did you do it?
Yeah. Again, I think that's part of the human emotion, piece. And I think that's part of the authenticity. We have that every year, whether it's new staff, whether it's new players coming in, new players leaving. And it is a little bit different, I think, collegiately than it was, for me professionally. But communication, the best thing that I learned too, and we weren't able to do it this year, and where we learned the most about one another was at a dinner. In college basketball, one of the things that is pretty typical is that you go to the hotel, you have a catered meal at the hotel, you go back to your room, you do your studying, you have a catered breakfast, you have a catered pregame meal, you go to the game, you come back. But one of the things we changed was the night before the game, we were going to go out to eat. And it wasn't staff sits at one table, support staff sits at another table, players sit wherever they want. It was, no, we had to have a mix. We called it, we were being inclusive, right? We were inclusive. And so we had to sit with new people all the time. And when we did that, just through organic conversation, we found out more about our players and about each other than we ever did trying to ask scripted questions or ask questions. And so again, those situations where you can kind of let your guard down, sometimes we would play kickball. Sometimes we would go to breakfast. Sometimes we would, play cards, different situations that, that we could do, where we could put ourselves in more organic type of atmospheres and less structured types of atmospheres. And that was most beneficial to us in finding out more about our team and about our players.
So you're telling us all these great things that you have done, and I'm going to kind of, if you don't mind, take this in a different way, because we want to learn from you. And once again, I know some of you may have come in a little bit late, but Stephanie, well, I have to say was the coach of Vanderbilt University of the women's basketball team. And I think it was last week she was let go. And we gave her the option, and I was keeping my fingers crossed. I'm like, please, coach, please come and show us how we can stay strong and be strong and overcome, because this stuff happens. All right. I'd like to take this one step further. Can you share with us about one of your biggest professional mistakes that you have made?
Oh yeah, I've made a lot of professional
I
mistakes.
know mine would take till tomorrow. So let's go maybe with your one or two.
Oh, geez. You know, I think the biggest mistake that I made, and it, you know, it's been most recent, and with with my Vanderbilt experience, was, you know, trying to be what I felt like Vanderbilt administration wanted me to be or needed to be, as opposed to what I was. You know, I told you when I first came in, they were talking about, you know, all of the experiences from the previous staff. And, you know, I felt like every time we were making decisions, we were avoiding landmines that had been put there by someone else. And it was, well, you know, if you do that, then it's good. They're sort of traumatized from this experience, right? And so a lot of my time at Vanderbilt, I felt like, you know, I was trying to be what they needed me to be or wanted me to be, as opposed to being what I was. And as I look back on it, you know, it might have been necessary at the time. I'm not sure. I think I probably won't know until we get, you know, later down the road. But, you know, part of one of the things that I talk about a lot of times with leadership is that we always try to be, or we often think of leadership positions and we try to be what we think it should be. And I fell into that. You know, in the college realm. And it's a lot easier to in the college realm, because you're talking about, you've got donors who are donating money that you have to make happy, right? You've got fans who are in the stands that are, you know, always overly critical, right? You've got an administration that wants it to be a certain way and not anything like it was before, but the fear of being like it was before navigated each decision. And then that fear fell down to me and navigated a lot of the decisions. And I think, you know, from that standpoint, that was a huge mistake. Because without me being me got me to that point, number one. But it probably hindered our development as a staff and as a program, to be able to put, for lack of a better term, the product on the floor that we really wanted to, and to be able to create quicker the environment that we wanted to create. Now, I think we were on our way. I think it was lasting a little bit longer, but it was still very, very difficult, because in my mind, I was trying to be something that, and I don't want to say that I was not, but the vision that they had for the position, as opposed to the vision of what I actually was for the program.
Being a leader, sometimes it is, or a manager or whatever, sometimes you feel like you are isolated. And, you know, like, you know, you have to be someone you're not, and, you know, and who do you talk to? And, you know, one of the things that I really love about Niwa and about these women is that I can call someone up and going, ooh, I don't know what they just said, or I'm feeling like I'm not doing a good enough job or whatever. And, you know, and you have someone that can look at you and help you and say, no, either, you know, put your big girl shoes on, or here is a path that you need to go, or just to let someone talk with you, you know. And I think it's really important that we stay a community as well. So
Absolutely.
Where do you think, have you even thought about where your plans are, where you're going? Because I know Carrie was interested in knowing what you think your next steps are going to be.
Yeah, you know, I have, and I'm not exactly 100% sure, but you know, if for those of you who know, when I was coaching in the WNBA, I also worked in television. So I did a lot of work with ESPN, with the Big Ten Network, with Fox, and so, you know, there's potential for me to go back to television, which I did enjoy. And I also, you know, I also talked about earlier, just the perspective of last year, and being able to, we've spend more time with my boys. You know, one of the things with coaching is that it's a grind, and you're gone a lot, and your time is really given to the kids that you're coaching and to the job. And so I also think that for me, being able to do something else that I love, if it's television, if it potentially be coaching again, I'm not really sure. But to also prioritize my time with my kids. I mean, they're 9 and I have 7-year-old twins, so we're not going to get this time back. Wow. And so I'm taking this time to decompress right now, and then to figure out what's next. But whatever's next is definitely going to continue to be in athletics. It's going to continue to be, you know, hopefully impacting, you know, communities and young people. And one of the things that I've been really, really fortunate, you know, as I was home in Indiana and Indianapolis community, is to really get engaged in the Nashville community, and to be able to be involved with, you know, organizations like Make-A-Wish, you know, Hands On Nashville, like lots of different community organizations, and to hopefully continue to create change.
Absolutely. And I know I'm like, you know, you guys can come back to to Indiana as well, but you know, the weather's a little bit better there in Nashville. So the Indiana connection, as we were doing this, and hey, Patty, there you are, Patty Camara.
Hey, Patty.
Patty was a speaker with us, and if you haven't seen Patty's presentation, go to YouTube, because I'm going to tell you what, she's the shot of adrenaline that you need on a dreary day to get you going. Yeah, there you go. Just give me your Superman stance, Patty. You know, there you go. But Patty's daughter worked with you. Is that right, Stephanie?
That's right. Yes, that's right.
You know, so you know, we are all connected in a very small way. Yeah. Hey, look at Amy just typed in. You know, Amy watched your presentation, Patty, 3 times already. Yeah, you know, so I'm telling you, if you guys haven't seen Patty, she is that shot in the arm. So we're going to open this up. This is a little different than the other programs that we had. You know, if you guys have questions, you can turn your mute button off. You know, let's try not to just all talk against all over everybody. But does anyone have any questions? Because she said, Coach Steph said bring them on. She's ready for them.
That's right.
Laura, what do you got?
Okay. I have a question, and as a parent of a collegiate athlete now, my daughter's in college, what is the best advice you could give to us parents to help players along the way when they are going through those ups and downs? I feel like I'm a very positive person, and I'm always trying to, you know, give that positive punch, but then I kind of times I just need to zip it and just, but is there, you know, I figured since you've gone through all this and you've been, you know, that I thought maybe you might have something good to share.
I think the biggest thing, and we talk to our players about this all the time, like this is life experience, right? Everything that you're going through in your sport, the ups, the downs, you know, the triumphs, the struggles, the setbacks, all of those things are life experience, because that's what life is going to be like. And as parents, we often want to protect our kids from that. And not let them go through that, but they have to. And you know, I think it's really easy for a lot of kids, again, because, you know, I think a lot of it's social media, but you look on social media and you see these great experiences that everyone is having, and it's all, you know, it's all terrific and it's all wonderful and we're smiling and we love it, but they don't really see the struggles that are going on behind the scenes. And so, you know, a lot of collegiate athletes think it's easy to just, okay, I'm just going to go there and it's going to be better. Oh, I'm just going to go there and it's going to be better. And just like all of us, the same stuff follows us wherever we go. You know, and so continuing to be there, you know, and support, and then continue to encourage the message that, okay, this is like life. Like, this is going to be an experience that you're going to have when you're, you know, working, or when you go through struggles in relationship, or when you go through struggles, you know, every day in life. And if you quit now, or if you know, give into that now, what are you going to do, you know, down the road? And that's one thing I love about sport. And one of the things that I feel like, and that we can never tell our young people enough, is that, you know, this prepares you like nothing else for what you're going to experience in the real world. It just does. There are highs, there are lows, there's preparation, there's discipline. You know, it's never going to be everybody gets a medal. It's never going to be, you're always going to get told what you want. And you're always going to have to fight. You're always going to have to claw. You're always going to have to work. And as women in particular, you know, we're always going to have to do it better. We're always going to have to do it better for longer periods of time. And we can learn these lessons as young people. We have to learn what it's like to fail. We have to learn what it's like to be disappointed. And then we have to remember what it feels like when we're triumphant. And then we have to lift one another up so that we can all feel that at some point.
And we need to continue to do that. Carrie just did, she just wrote a book about, I call it Push Through, and her Push Through Daily Journal. And, you know, it's just that, like, you know, you need to push through, and you need to keep going, because the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's just different grass.
It's absolutely
right. It's different grass. Any other questions that we have?
I had a question. First of all, you're speaking my language, Coach Steph, so fantastic job and great insight. Can you share with us, since you're a a mother as well. Maybe some ways that you've balanced both your professional life and your other roles as a, especially as a mother.
Yeah, I'm not sure if balance is really realistic for us. I think, and I've read it and I need to read it again, but the book Flow, really spoke to me. Cause you just have to find a flow. One of the things that was very difficult, for me this year was that my kids couldn't be at practice. They couldn't come to games. They couldn't, come and I'm used to having them around. I mean, all of our staff that has children, it's like, this is a family, like coming into the office and coming to practice and coming on the plane with us and coming to games with us. Like that's just part of what we do. Our jobs are too encompassing to not have our families around us. And this year, because of protocols and pandemic and all those other things, they couldn't. And one of my boys, who's not that into sports at all, asked me one day, like, when can I go back to practice with you? And I'm like, oh gosh, he wants to go to practice. And so those were ways that I was able to do that. Unfortunately, in basketball, in sport, we were able to do that. But I also had to learn to prioritize. I had to prioritize. I'm not taking recruiting calls from 6 to 8 at night. That's dinner, helping them get ready for bed, get them to bed, and then I'll take calls after that. From a recruiting standpoint, when I have to go on the road, if my kids have a game, I'd like for it to be a local game. I can go to a local game after I go to their game. Things like that I was fortunate enough to be in the position to be able to do that with, and prioritize, time with them and really be intentional about when I was with them, being present. And, I was blessed that I had a staff that understood that, a recruiting coordinator who knew 6 to 8 p.m. was my time with them, and anything outside of that, I'm free, I'm game. So hit me up then. And I think the biggest thing is that we just have to establish our boundaries, and we have to stick to those boundaries. Whatever, we have to be flexible, certainly. But as working moms, we're going to try to do it all. And oftentimes we do, but oftentimes to our own detriment, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so creating those boundaries is really, really important.
I know that we just had a really interesting conversation as employees are coming back into the workplace. Some of them have been out for such a long time, and for us reconnecting, the mental challenges and the emotional challenges, they're real. And I love that idea about drawing a picture or putting an emoji up, because, I think everyone should feel the way I feel, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. And we don't. And so I love these team building exercises, and I would love to keep on peppering you with questions. And I know we have other questions, but I do want to stick within our boundaries here. If we want to stay on afterwards, maybe, Steph can stay on for a little bit longer. But I do want to just kind of wrap up and give you guys what's coming up. This is our last, yay, I'm so excited about ending our empowerment series with Coach Stephanie, because we're ending season 1, and season 2 will start in the fall. So we're going to be like TV stars here. But please, follow us on Facebook. Go to our YouTube channel. This will be on our YouTube channel. You can see Carrie's presentation. You can see Patty's presentation. You can see Dawn's presentation. All of our presentations are on YouTube, and share them with your staff. It's a great way to do it. So get involved, be social. Now, this is the big one. Here we are. Our 10th anniversary for Influential Women of Northwest Indiana is September 30th of this year. Yes, we're going to have it. This event, no lie, sells out way before the event. So make certain that you have your tickets, your tables, your sponsorships, and call us now and let us help you with that. Our next event, we are going to be wrapping up season 1 for Breaking the Glass Ceiling. Season 2 will again start in the fall, and we are going to have Debbie Coble. And Debbie Coble has been recommended and requested probably by a dozen people to tell her story. And wow, what a story that she has. So it'll be wonderful to see her. And Alicia Cannon of Apex is going to be introducing her too. So we're really trying to get other NEWA members involved in introducing and participating in our speakers, because this is a community. We have a new committee, which is our social committee for social media and networking, etc. So get involved in that. So with that, get involved, be at the table. Like Dawn from Hard Rock Cafe or Hard Rock Casino said, be at that table. And so, you know what, Stephanie, you brought us to this table today, and we cannot thank you enough for doing so. And so with that, I'm going to officially end the session. But if anyone has any last minute questions or anything, Steph, you got 5 more minutes for us?
Yeah, no problem.
All right, 5 more minutes. Any other questions? I know we had a question about male students. What have your students thought about the issue of male students joining them on the team, on the court?
Joining them in what way? Like we have male practice players.
No, so I think they're talking about the transgender. I mean, forgive me if I'm not using the right words. Is that what's happening? Yep, and that's what you wanted about about transgender students now playing in female sports.
Yeah, we haven't had those conversations.
Okay.
I think at the collegiate level and at the professional level, there are different rules and protocols and things like that when it comes to what does that mean? What does it mean? Is it an identity as transgender? Is it someone who is transitioning, taking hormones or taking estrogen? I think all of those different things. So we haven't had those discussions yet because there hasn't been clarity on from leadership in terms of what that means.
Yeah, and that just peppers in that media. The media grabs it. It's on social media, and I do think that we're taking the social media and it gets confusing. Of what the discussions are really out there.
Yeah, and we often take information that we get on social media and Google as fact, and so being able to really figure out exactly what we're talking about is important because it can be skewed in so many different ways.
Yep. Does anyone have any other? Please.
So we had talked a little bit before when we about planning the session with managing millennials, and it's just a different generation that has come in, and I'm a very, can still consider a very old millennial myself, but like I even noticed the difference and the impact, like you said, that social media and all these things are having. As someone who is leading millennials and working with them, what advice can you give to other leaders, bosses who have this generation coming in?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think about it in 2 ways. I think about it from my old school perspective, and it's like, well, these guys are going to have to learn what it takes, to be able to enter the workforce. Like you can't just, come in and have only done half of your project. You can't just ask for, redos. You can't just ask to retake a test, retake an exam, which is what these kids are doing, in college, asking for extensions, asking for this. And I'm like, if you have deadlines, you have to meet them, right? Like this is not realistic. But it seems like it's becoming more realistic, for them, and workplaces are having to adjust, to all of these things. So my old school, realm is different than sort of what I've learned about having to adjust and having to be flexible. And I'm not a very flexible person, a lot of times, as an athlete, it's like, it's this way or that way. And you can't really, there's no in between. It's black or white, but there's a lot of gray. And I do feel like the impact of social media and the pressures that these young people are facing are real. It's a lot of the mental pressure that they're putting on themselves because of seeing all this perfection everywhere. And it's real. How we, as leaders handle that is going to be different, because some organizations, you can't be flexible. So I don't want that person coming in doing surgery on me. That's for sure. But how can we help them understand, what each level of their life demands from them? And I think that's that authentic kind of communication. If you can build trust enough to help them understand what like John Gordon always says, it's not tough love, it's love tough. right? It's love tough. Help them understand, look, I want to help you. Because these guys are missing mentors as well. You know, they don't talk to mentors in the way that we did. No, I could call up 4 or 5 of my mentors, you know, after I lost my job, and they could talk me off the ledge, and they could help me through, you know, processing all of this. These guys get their information from the internet, and they think the internet is the place for all the answers, as opposed to, we think experience and people who have had experiences are the place for all of these answers. So I think being able to communicate and help them navigate what's realistic and what's not is very important. I am a better parent after having coached in college than I would have ever been only working with professional athletes, because now I know, you know, the areas that I'm going to bend and not bend, to prepare my children to be or not be like certain players that I coached. You know, and just like I love the fact that my boys were around women and were supporting women and love to wear their jerseys and support them. You know, I also learned from the players that I coached how I could be a better parent. And so as a parent, positioning my kids for what's realistic and what's not. But as leaders, I think we just have to, we got to be able to be flexible, but we got to be able to communicate and help them understand each level of your life demands something different. And it's not always going to be the easy way. And it's not always going to be like the grass is greener. It's not, you're right, Andre, it's different. It's different grass.
Just different grass.
Yep.
Is there any other questions? I know, so remember September 30th, if you're in this area, every single one of us would like to have you at our table at Influential Women. Right, Patty? You know what? Patty doesn't get you just because her daughter works with you, okay? So you all not sitting at the same table. But you know what? We'd love for you to be present. And I know we'd all have it there. So if you want to taste it, September is a very nice time to visit Chicago in Northwest Indiana. So come on up. Is there any other last minute questions or conversations that we need to have? I know she probably has other things to do. Ladies, I was inspired. I mean, thank you. Thanks for being present and the questions and texting me the questions and everything else. I really appreciate it. Alicia, you're on in 2 weeks, lady. You're in the hot seat with Debbie. So I see you there now. So I hope that you're ready for that.
No, but I'll give it my best shot.
Okay, ladies, thank you so much. Stephanie, you were amazing. We appreciate it. And well, the gift's not ready, but we have a little gift coming to you, but we'll get that to you later.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. See y'all later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.